Good morning.
Hello there.
One often gets the idea that, or to be quite honest, I've also stepped into the trap that when you live a contemplative life, where meditation, contemplation, being in the moment, all those elements, where they are present and you live this contemplative life, it is a life devoid of all tension, it is serene, uh, it is isolated. All these difficult things pass you by.
Yeah.
You're not influenced by it because you almost insulated in your cocoon. And then on a practical level, when you live your life and there's a lot of things coming into play, the fridge breaks down, load shedding comes at a time that's so inconvenient, or whatever. All these things come into play, and you feel, well, there goes my contemplative life. the moment that clutch cable breaks,
Yeah.
there goes my contemplative life.
Yeah. So much for contemplation.
So much for contemplation. It was good while it lasted, but it's not for me.
I'm not there yet.
I'm not there yet. So, and people tell you, at this stage in my life, with children at school, children at university, it's a lot of expenses. I'm in no position to live a contemplative life. I don't have the luxury of that.
Yeah, we often hear that. And I think it has to do with definitions, like it often does. What we see as the contemplative life or what people generally see and the reality of what it is.
Yes. Yeah. And we are also touching on this issue because we now full-blown at the start of packing up and moving. By the end of May, if everything goes to plan, we'll be away from Barrowfield. It's difficult to say whether we will be settled in Tafelkop.
No, we will arrive at Tafelkop.
We would have arrived at Tafelkop, but so this month is just going to be hectic. And we are saying to ourselves, all right, so it is hectic. How is it going to play into living a contemplative life?
Yeah, that, and having been in the city for the past week and staying with friends that lives contemplatively in the city.
Yes.
Setting. And just again, I think being made aware of the challenges in that, in the rhythms of the city that is so different to what we have here, because we do have a quieter rhythm where we live, but that it must be possible.
Yes.
It must be possible to be a contemplative in the city. It's not...
And we see it is.
Yes, and we see it. It's not dependent on your circumstances or where you are.
Yeah.
It makes it maybe easier or more difficult, but then again, it's a surface thing.
Yes.
So I think what people maybe don't see when they look at a contemplative life, or when they think about a contemplative life, is that for us, it feels like life can be extremely busy and almost chaotic, like it is now at the moment, very chaotic, almost like a storm at sea, but it's on the surface. It's happening on the surface. It's waves, it's wind, it's all of that. But there's a deeper, quieter place from where you are functioning out of. And that's a feeling that I have. That is what the contemplative life gives me. Is that although it is hectic, although it is crazy, although it sometimes feels like totally overwhelming, at the core, there's like a very deep quiet
A stabilizing
and
factor.
like a foundation that I can go into and just sink into when I feel things are getting too much for me.
Yeah.
So it's constantly there. It's not like I go back to it. It sort of carries me all the time.
That being said, there are times when we feel flustered. There are times, when we feel so overwhelmed that we almost lose touch with that. It's almost like we dragged along. And that's why the contemplative practice is so important.
Yeah.
It brings you back. It brings you back so that you function on a more continuous level out of this deeper dimension.
It's a touchstone.
It is a
It's
touchstone.
going back to something that is there, that is
Yeah.
always there, and that you lose sight of.
Yeah.
So, so even in our circumstances now, it is not negotiable that we give up the practice,
No.
that we don't have that time. If in any way possible, we should have more of it.
Yeah.
What is that meme that I read? If you don't have time for half an hour of quiet time, then take an hour. Because then is the time that you will need it.
Yeah.
So,
And it's important, and I mean, we're saying that to ourselves. It's not a waste of time.
no, definitely not. It's a rescuer. It's
Because we can say there's such a lot of things to be done. The day isn't long enough for that. We have to pack everything into this day.
Well, we have a list, which is good.
Yes.
We need to structure our lives so that we can don't feel totally overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And in Afrikaans one, you have a couple of pointers that I really liked.
Yeah.
I wanted to fix some of them, but it's
Yeah. But not on air. It can turn ugly.
We don't want that.
Yeah. We lose touch with the depth dimension. No, but I think it's almost like looking ahead and sometimes feeling a little bit scared as to all the things that we'll have to get to, and feeling overwhelmed by that, saying to myself, all right, what is going to help me? And I think it's also important, it doesn't fit all sizes. You have to tweak a little bit, but we found that this helps. The first thing is a to-do list. Just because there's such a lot that has to be done, to make a to-do list, I have to close this account, give 1 month's notice, I have to pack those books, and maybe break your to-do list down in terms of daily tasks.
Realistic daily
Realistic.
tasks. Yeah, I think one has to be careful, and certain personalities will be more prone to that. That you don't spend so much time with a to-do list that you don't get to do anything else.
Yes.
It's also, but it's just a general. It's almost like just to, and for me personally, it's a wonderful feeling to look back at the end of the day and say, okay, I got to do these things. But also, it helps you to be realistic.
Yes.
Because when you come to the end of the day and you see, oh, I didn't get to this, you also have to really look at it and say, was that realistic?
Yes.
Wasn't that too much that I put on my plate?
Yes.
So that I can then also, because we need to be kind to ourselves, and be realistic about what we are able to do and work with what we have.
And it's almost like pacing yourself like in a marathon.
Yeah.
You know, this is so many days ahead that we have to do these things. So realistically, what can we do in terms of that? And it's also a sense of, all right, I I'm present as to what needs to be done, and the processes aren't running away with me.
Yeah.
I steer it a little bit.
Yeah.
So that a to-do list, and usually what we do is at the beginning of a day we sit down at breakfast and we say, all right, the to-do list for today, it might have changed since the day before. Let's make adjustments and look at that. Then the practice, the contemplative practice. Non-negotiable, every day stick to the practice. It's not a waste of time amidst of all this pressure. It's very, very important. Because it's also a matter of giving one perspective. One can get so drawn into all the things happening in one's life that there's this perception that this is all that there is.
This is the whole picture.
This is
My
the whole
life
picture.
is the whole picture.
Yeah. And it isn't.
Yeah.
As important as it is not the whole picture. There's a whole background to this where God is involved and present and active in many different ways. And it helps you to tap into the bigger context. It's always that sense of the bigger context. And I've said to myself, even if it's just the third thing, even if it's just a stroll down to the river because we're going to miss the river. The river has been such a good companion to us while living here. So it's also almost a ritual of saying goodbye and so on, but to walk down to the river and back and be exposed to nature. To get
ground.
To ground yourself, to really be to experience nature. And then this isn't the end of the world. A lot of people, and it's interesting how many of our friends and family are moving now, right?
It is just
2023 is the day of moves.
the year of moves.
The year of moves.
Yeah.
A lot of people are moving. So a lot of people are in this situation. We're not the only ones. It has its own challenges, but also to handle it with humor.
Yes.
To bring in the lighter side. It's not only gloom and doom. To pick up on humor, our little granddaughter Ariana, when we have Zoom sessions or even when we visit, she has this complicated game. We get so confused with the rules. We won't go into it because it will take time, but you have to guess and she'll give you the answer and the wrong answer and everything. But then when you've given the right answer, she has a way of saying, well done, Opa, well done. So we have this saying when we have worked through our list, well done, Oma, well done. So it brings a lighter side to things.
It helps.
And the touchstones.
Yes, I want to go back to that. I think for me it helps tremendously to when things get really, when I start feeling very insecure, very flustered, very alone, just to go back to those touchstones. I was writing in my journal, how are we going to do this? This seems impossible. To pack up all of this, the pottery studio, the workshop, the house, with all that it has, way too much. We're not traveling light, so we are actually really scaling down. But then to really, I think the answer came to me that we are not alone, that so many people have offered to help, that we are really carried, that on a deep level, emotionally, people will
financially.
say, yes, people will say, I only have a car, but I'll come. And it's a dreadful dirt road that you have to travel. I'll come and I'll just take a couple of boxes, but I will come and help you. A friend that had foot operation says, I'm so sorry that I will not be able to help you now because I have to now recuperate after the operation. But maybe I can just come and sit there and you know, keep you company. So it's just those things that stand, that is sure.
Some people might even just take care of the pets.
Yes, exactly. But it's something that stays fixed, that so that when the world is on its head, those things stand.
Yeah.
And to go back to those things really, for me, is very helpful. It sort of gives me balance again, and it helps me to go forward.
Yes, yes. So, we'll keep you up to date as to the progress or not.
The conversations are also not negotiable.
Yes, yeah, we'll carry on with that. We'll fit it in.
Yeah.
Lovely to share this also with you because it also flows out of conversations that we had with friends. And we know that each one of you, you have your own processes and lives to live. We're thinking of you in your lives as well, and to foster a contemplative stance in that life with all its stress and challenges. So we're thinking of you as well. Thank you.
Keep well, everyone.